Good morning, Emina.
Hi.
Welcome again to SEOs Getting Coffee, where we discuss some SEO topics and SEO discussion for the week on a Friday, usually Friday morning, where we have a coffee and just catch up. Yeah, how's your week been?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been super busy, but that's always good. I can see your mug is looking
I've
boring
got
today.
my red mug today.
I
So this
have
is my mug from university. So this is a very old mug. So
it's
like me,
it doesn't look interesting, but there's an emotional value to it.
there is.
I have llamas today,
Very nice.
and I absolutely love llamas, and this is one of my favorite cups actually.
Maybe we can vote for the next Google Core update to be Google Llama or something like that. If this last one's alligator, then this next one can be llama, just for you. Right. Well, this week I think it's interesting that we were working on an international SEO project, and doing like a workshop and session. So it's quite fresh for us at the moment to discuss maybe some international SEO and some around that subject matter.
Yeah, it was a really good workshop day, and it kind of it's one of the things that happens quite a lot for companies who are entering the UK market or are working with the UK market and the US market in particular, that they immediately go into the international SEO strategy. And sometimes, which is not what's happening here, and the workshop was like part of that, kind of determining the why are we doing it, and should we be doing it, what kind of impact can we expect? And that's the bit that people sometimes forget, particularly if they have marketing teams in both locations and they both kind of have a stake in it, and then what they do is try and separate US from the UK without thinking whether that's the best strategy.
Yeah, I think, well, to give some context, I think the main question that we often get asked, or the main question that's often posed by web owners, website owners, businesses, brands, is usually the first one is obviously the differentiation between US and UK. So that's the usual topic of interest for most people is, well, should I have a different version of my site for people based in the UK compared to people based in the US? It's particularly for companies that obviously operate at both across both of those markets. But the main question is, and the main thing, most people are on a .com, right? So a .com, even though Google and all the advice will suggest that .com isn't a US based, it's not kind of targeted and not localized into the USA. Evidence would suggest that actually there is a bias towards the US with .com domain names. You tend to, if you've got a .com, you tend to see that you have more rankings in the US compared to the UK if you operate in both markets, right? So even though it's not meant to, in theory, that generic top level domain of a .com is not meant to be specific to the USA. It actually, when you actually look at data and you look at obviously keyword rankings, it actually tells a lot of the time tells an opposite story. It actually says that it has got a preference for that localization of being linked to .com linked to the USA.
Yeah, and I think anybody who has a .com site, it would be complete madness if they decided to separate the US targeting and have it as, I don't know, .com/US folder.
Well, that's exactly. That's actually, that's like one of the things that just doesn't make sense. It's it's almost like it's almost like saying this site is like, it's like you're basically doing it twice. It's like .com, you're already US, like it's global, but because it's a .com, it's almost like the epicenter is, it is US. So the .com /US or US domain name US.domain, so if you've got a subdomain US, then that's also you know, a situation where you know, it can just basically you're doubling up on the US basically. So actually,
really the question is, if you have a .com domain, should you be separating the GB, whichever way you go, subfolder or any other way? Should you be separating it from your .com? And obviously, if you have a .co.uk, then we are talking about separating the US side. But what we find, what the case is often is, clients come with a .com domain, and then we talk about separating the US, which isn't really the case. What you're doing is separating the
yeah,
GB.
exactly. So if you've got a .com, then you're a GTLD. Then the US is like your starting point usually. So
Yeah.
you know, especially .com, you know, but like when you've got .net, you know, .net, obviously that's, you know, that is more of a globe. So you could do .net US, but with .com, you know, that is kind of US based. So that's what I would do. But in terms of when you've got country code specific, so it's country code TLD, if you've got a .co.uk, then with CCTLDs, like the country code top level domains, you wouldn't you know, your international SEO strategy, you can't do the same international SEO strategy on that. So you can't have us.domain.co.uk, you can't have us.domain.de, you know, or you can't have a subfolder structure because it's already country code specific. So it's .co.uk / if you do subdirectory, so .co.uk / US, that's also kind of not best practice as well, because you've got a conflict because you're .co.uk and then your US, so you've got a conflict there. So that's why you see people that have established .co.uk's, or let's just say they've got a .co.uk site, they've got a .de site and a .fr site. So they've got, you know, UK, Germany and France. Usually you'd be looking to set up international SEO, but you've got those 3 domains. Now you've got a choice. If you can get the .com, you can merge all of those domains into the .com and then have an international SEO structure and strategy on the .com and bring it all together. But if you can't get the .com or a GTLD, or if that's not possible, then you are going to be dealing with those CCTLDs. You know, you're going to be dealing with, you know, those variations of the different sites, which is obviously, you know, yeah, it can be very difficult for companies to manage.
Yeah, so it's not the best practice, but I've seen it done. You know, I've seen
it gets done.
.uk / US, which isn't, you know, it's not the best, as you say. It's kind of like.
But the key thing is with, you know, international SEO is it's always the justification. You've just got to constantly be asking yourself why. Like, why are we doing this? And this is the one thing that often happens, is that somebody thinks that we need to go down SEO, like the international SEO route, but actually it's not based on data. It's not based on looking at what's best for the user experience. And that's the key, is that if you focus on what's going to be best for your user and their experience, and also what the data is telling you, where you're getting traffic from, then that's going to inform what's the best candidate, right? What's the best candidate to actually have a localized version of that page? You know, and
which
often
is the work that, you know, that's the thing that gets skipped, because technically what you should be looking at is, you know, what are like the specific company and market factors that basically tell you, yes, we should be separating the UK from the US. So for example, if you are working in the law industry, that's a prime example where if you are in both markets, you should really consider doing international SEO, or having 2 websites for the two markets, just connecting them, because the laws are so different in the US and in the UK. But if you're selling a product, and it has different products in the UK and in the US, from a company level factors, you need to kind of think about international SEO and but if we're talking simply about literally just changing the basics, so keywords and currency and dates and stuff, it can be dangerous because it can flag you. So Google can ignore Hreflang anyway, and it can flag you as duplicate content, which is the thing that we see quite a lot, isn't it? You know, people.
Well, it's not, you know, not even before duplicate content. It can just say, well, actually, we're not going to show this. We're just going to select, you know, we're just going to ignore that, and we're just going to show the .com because there's not much difference here.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but that comes into the justification of it, is that, you know, it's specifically it's the justification of like, well, can you justify enough differences between the two in order to obviously, you know, justify creating a specific page, and it's especially difficult when you come to the US and the UK, because the only a lot of business that, you know, the only difference that a lot of people have is just the different uses of the different types of English, like American English or British English, right? So and that's it. It's just like spellings and vocabulary, vocabulary, you know. It's
I mean,
so
you could go and kind of change links and stuff like that, which is good practice. At least try and kind of have your links point to sources from the two countries if you can. But you know, it's still, I've never there was some chatter in the women in technical SEO group, the Slack one. And one of the questions posed was, have you ever seen it work when you split US and UK? And what do you think made it work? And the options were around, you know, did you change the content substantially? Did you just translate the content? Or no, it never worked. And the winner was actually, a very majority of people said, it hasn't worked for us.
Yeah.
Unless we really changed substantially. Yeah. And that's the thing. I have not seen any case studies where it worked on just basic level.
That's the purpose of it. I think that's the truth of it, is that's the purpose, is that if your, you know, if your audience, your content, your services, whatever it is, if it's different enough in that market, that to validate a reason for having a completely different page, that's the reason of having international SEO. But actually, if you're selling the same thing on the same premise, and there is just a little bit of difference in the language used, but if there's not that much difference in the keyword targeting, and you know, then actually, you know, having a .com between the UK and the USA is that it's you know, you're not gonna have you're not going to have a good case for and to justify, obviously, because, you know, it can be an expensive endeavor for companies and businesses to go forward with, because you're talking about sometimes, you know, custom development solutions to be able to actually implement it. You know, there's not a lot of things that can kind of be out of the box. You know, with managing the Hreflang, and you know, across websites can be very complicated and difficult for people to maintain and update and also keep on top of, you know, because that's one of the reasons, and where the areas where it really falls down is obviously just, you might have these pages, but actually if your Hreflang is not correct, then, and inconsistent, you know, then that can obviously fall down, and you can get, you know, loads of errors and problems with that. But so no, it's interesting. So I think it's always just a justification. It's you know, to kind of wrap it up on that front, is that it's the data, it's the user experience, like user first justification. If it really needs to be for the user, then, you know, you can obviously make a justification for that. But mainly it's like, as well, just look at the data. Who's your candidate? Like, you might want to have a Spanish version of your site, for example, translated, and a Spanish version. But actually, if you're getting limited numbers of traffic from Spanish speaking countries, then is the justification there? And does that balance out against the cost that it will take you to implement it? You know, so yeah.
All right. What are we 404ing?
I don't know this week, actually. There hasn't been anything really that's really, that, you know, is grinding my gears this week. Do you have anything? Anything that that's
look, you know, like following this discussion, the obvious choice would be international SEO without the proper justification, because because I personally think that that's one of the, and I can understand it, you know, there's always politics around it. But I think good companies and good agencies go into the justification with the client, and it always works because, you know, we're not here. I mean, we are here to get retainers and get money and stuff, but I would never like give advice, yes, do it, just because that's going to mean more retainer for us. So let's put international SEO with no justification in room 4.
Yeah. Okay. I would agree with that. Yeah, that's good. That's good for me. Put it there and lock it away, and never to be seen again. Always justified international SEO, never unjustified. Or data, you know, data led, basically data driven decisions regarding international SEO is always the much preferred direction and way forward. But no, you make a good point, is that, you know, to wrap it up, is that, you know, if you are working with an agency, you know, it's an opportunity. Obviously, you know, it's complicated, and it requires time. It does require time, and we're all businesses, and we're all here to obviously, you know, we're all in this game together. Of, you know, of course, you know, all businesses need to obviously create revenue and make their own money and profit, but it is an you know, be careful, and it's an opportunity for people to obviously use up a lot of time. And the risk there for businesses is obviously you can just put loads of priority and loads of time into international SEO, when actually there's other priorities that could be used that could actually drive the business forward and move the needle in terms of the SEO strategy. So sometimes it's not always the best, it's not always the first priority for you in order to obviously maximize your SEO growth. So yeah, okay, well, good chat. Yeah,
as always, my coffee's almost done.
I think yeah, we'll see everybody next week, I hope. But yeah, please, you know, let us know your feedback in the comments. You know, please share, please, you know, like the video. Yeah, and just let us know if you've got anything you'd like to add. Yeah, we look forward to hearing from you, and hopefully we'll see you next week for another episode of SEOs Getting Coffee. And on that note, Emina, I shall speak to you later today.
See you later.
See you later, everyone. Bye-bye.